TYT Sports, NBA time. I'm acting like a homer wearing my Clipper shirt. West preview here with special guest Jeremy Rucker from Rant Sports, NBA writer. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Always good talking about some NBA.
There you go. Oh, very excited to break down the West, where, of course, I'm going to think the Clippers are going to do well. But before we get to the Clippers, let's start with the other teams that I and Jeremy think are going to be in the top 8 this year and get into the playoffs. And then maybe we'll talk a little bit about the teams that just missed out. So starting at the 8, I'm going to pick the Dallas Mavericks. I know a lot of people think they're going to finish higher this year. The problem is this West is just so stacked. I'm not exactly sure who they're going to bump out. I mean, maybe they bump out the team that I'm going to bring up next, but I don't know. I just think the teams above them are so good. I think it's going to be tough. I think Chandler Parsons is really going to help them, but Dirk is 36, and as good of a shooter as he is, at a certain point, he's not going to be able to drive to the basket, and he's just going to have to spot up and shoot, and I think that's going to take away from his game.
I would start with Dallas at 8. I know you said a lot of people think they should be higher than 8. I'm one of those people.
Okay, great.
I definitely think they can overpass Memphis. Memphis is a good team. You're right, they're physical. It's hard to keep up with them. The problem with Memphis is that they don't really have any consistent offense. I don't think Mike Conley's put together 5 consistent games in his career. I like Mike Conley, and he's good when he's on, but like a lot of players on those teams, it's hard to keep that going. And if they, they can hold people to 80 points, but they'll score 75 and lose. They might be the AC. They might miss the playoffs. Either way, I like the Mavs at least 7.
At the 7, I have Memphis. As a Clipper fan, I've seen Memphis beat up the Clippers year after year. They beat up other teams when Gasol is healthy. He's the key to that team. And when you have Gasol and Randolph and Allen on the same court, it's really hard for teams that aren't very physical to play with them. They just crush other teams and they wear them down. At the 6, I have Houston. Again, not one of my favorite teams. It feels like a high school with Howard and Harden and all those stories of them eating separate from the team. I don't love that Harden doesn't play defense. I don't love that Howard always seems to have issues. I don't think Trevor Ariza replaces Chandler Parsons. I think he's better maybe defensively, but Trevor Ariza's bounced around, and there's a reason players bounce around. At the 5, I have the Portland Trail Blazers. I love Lillard. He's the man. I think he's the future of the NBA. I think Aldridge is unguardable when he's on.
I love Portland. I love the Trail Blazers. Aldridge and Lillard, 2 of my favorite players in the NBA. I definitely went nuts last year when Lillard hit that shot over Parsons. That was some wonderful stuff. Yeah, I like him. Would you put him at 5? Is that what it was?
I put him at 5. Yeah.
I like him at 5. I think in the Eastern Conference they could be a 3, maybe a 2.
Without question, a 3.
They're a great team. They have a great offense. They have a solid coach. They don't have a lot of defense. Their defense got better last year. At times it was great. At times it was non-existent. And that really needs to improve this year if they're going to make a difference. Because they can put up points, but they can lose a lot of games scoring 115 points too.
At the 4, I have the Golden State Warriors, probably my second favorite team outside the Clippers.
Yeah, they new coach, always something to keep in mind. But I think Kerr will do a good job. I'm not really sure why they fired Jackson, but they did, and Kerr's a good pickup. They got Sean Livingston. That's huge too.
Yeah, I love Sean Livingston.
I love Sean Livingston also. I think he's going to add a nice dimension to their backcourt. He's not a great shooter, but he's a great passer. He's big. He's kind of a matchup nightmare for point guards. He's a good person to have behind Curry. I like it. And, this is Klay Thompson's year. He's going to prove to everybody that he's not worth that trade for Kevin Love because they wouldn't do it. And he's got a lot of people to quiet down. He's going to put up some big numbers, though. He looked great this summer in the international play, and that backcourt might be unstoppable.
At the 3, I have OKC.
Like him at 3 too. I think Durant losing him for the first few weeks of the season is going to be huge in a really competitive conference. They're going to lose a lot more games than they would with him there. Not to say they won't be fine at the end of the day, but those losses might end up bumping him down a little bit.
At the 2, the Los Angeles Clippers. I think this is a make or break year for the Clippers. I think if they don't get it done this year, you can only get to the second round of the playoffs so many times.
Chris Paul's amazing. Blake Griffin gets better every single year. He's definitely a viable MVP candidate if they can win, maybe around 60 games. I'm not saying it'll happen, but definitely on the table.
At the 1, as much as I hate them, I have San Antonio. For the last 2 years, I've been predicting them not to be the 1, and then they keep being the 1. So until they show me they can't do it, I kind of have to put them at the 1. They're really hard to beat. Duncan as old as I am, and I couldn't play like Duncan, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's really hard to vote against the Spurs at this point. You can keep calling them old, you can keep counting them out, but when they keep winning 60 games, it's just foolish to do anything otherwise and put in the number one.
When the Spurs, no matter who they're playing, they always have these games, like they play them, and it looks like they're doing something that nobody else does. They just demolish teams and take them out of their games, and the other team just looks sad because they don't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, you heard reports last year of the Heat locker room after they lost in the finals. There's a lot of sense of relief that they were just done getting beat over and over again by a team that was clearly better than them and everybody else in the league. And age is a factor, but when you play that basketball that well with a coach that good, it's really hard to count them out.
How about the three teams that are kind of on the outside looking in? Right. There's the Suns, the New Orleans, and the Lakers. Now, the Suns...
The Lakers are looking in. I appreciate that, but I don't...
Well, I don't... We just did a Kobe piece, and, I talked about how I didn't like Kobe, so I don't want everyone to call me a hater. I think Kobe's fantastic, and he can carry them to a certain point, and if this division was worse, if they were in the East, maybe he could sneak into the 8 or the 7, but not in the West.
No, not by a long shot. Absolutely not. They're not even in the picture. I mean, if they can win 30 games this year, it's not bad.
Yeah.
I'm, it pains me to say.
You're a Laker fan.
I'm a huge Laker fan, but you got to be realistic. The Suns are the team we should be talking about here. The Suns were really good last year. They surprised a lot of people. They were way above their expected win total. That team is gelling. Hornacek's a good coach. They have a lot of really good shooters. They don't play a lot of defense, but when do the Suns play defense?
Do they have bigs though? Do they have the bigs to compete? I mean, the Morris brothers, again, they don't strike fear in me. Alex Len never seems to play.
Yeah, well, Alex Len just keeps breaking bones in his hand.
Yeah.
They don't. They don't have a lot of inside presence. They're not going to compete for for the conference championship in the West, but they could sneak in there again. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of offensive firepower. They seem to be consistent. Gerald Green's are stepping it up. Bledsoe, we'll see if he's worth that giant contract he got. And Dragic always seems to impress. So
Isaiah Thomas, I like that.
Yeah,
signing.
That's right.
I like
Isaiah
that guy
Thomas.
out of North Carolina State that they picked. He looks really
good. Is that the point guard, Ennis? Or
no? It's I think T.J. Warren. Is that his name?
Okay.
He's great. I watched him in college. He was quite a player.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't think they're obviously not going to become the 5th seed or anything, but they can maybe knock out the Grizzlies. Maybe something happens to Houston, maybe something happens to Dallas. It's really hard to tell, but they're definitely a team to keep your eye on.
And once they dismantle the Grizzlies next year, I could see them. I could also see New Orleans. I mean, Anthony Davis is a stud. He's unguardable, and he very well may be the best center in the NBA already. And I think it's only going up from here as long as he can stay healthy.
Absolutely. Anthony Davis is something else. The problem with that team is staying healthy. Eric Gordon hasn't seen the floor for more than, I don't even know how many games.
Oh, believe me.
Yeah, that's right. Clippers fan. Yeah, absolutely. If they can stay healthy, they've definitely got a shot. Anthony Davis is a beast. He's crazy good. You definitely can't underrate that. It's just such a competitive conference. It's really hard to stay competitive. You need 2 amazingly solid players to even be in the running, and I don't know if they have that outside of Davis.
Yeah.